So Aleister Crowley, for example, right? No, part of my skepticism with that side of spirituality and religion as well is that a lot of their so-called magic, right, comes from, well, the reports of it happened when they were in drug-induced states. And so I guess that goes back to, I mean, with the whole A&E thing, like, you've got dancing, you've got speaking, but then you've also got, like, reality with an A in it, switched around, with the intention being that, you know, if okay, we've got wine here, but we're all fairly sober. The idea is that when you're really kind of interacting with relatively serious subjects, or of a spiritual nature, I wouldn't want it to be that I'm super high and I could blame it on the LSD afterwards. If I have a spiritual experience, I want it to be when I'm completely stone cold sober, you know, and I could definitely say this really happened, you know. I guess, I mean,
what kind of spiritual experience are you talking about?
Any kind, because all I've ever, I mean, the thing is, you know, you've got this, what do you call it now? Serendipity? Or, I don't know, like, I see you in Brixton, right? You talk about someone, they walk past, it's like, oh, we were just speaking about you. And then we go somewhere else and we meet, and I mean, even like this, I'm sure people have spoken and discovered that you know people or you work with the same company or similar companies and stuff. It's just like, wow, imagine of all the places we could have been tonight, we're here. And to me, like, some people say that's, you know, spooky or spiritual, like some force that made it happen. But then to me, it's just.
You say that coincidence is two angles that fit perfectly. So it really is no such thing as a coincidence.
I mean, I think the tricky thing there is that you can get lost in semantics.
Yeah, that's true.
And kind of like poeticizing.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know,
that is why we're here.
Yeah, to get lost in semantics.
I guess that's why art is so important, because for me, right, music is the job. You know, you hear a certain song, right, and you're like, you just get lost, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, you're watching a film, right? It's completely fictional. Behind that screen, it's just wires and bolts and cables and stuff. But in front of you, it's like a whole other universe. And that's like, you know, maybe you don't want to call Hollywood art, because it's not too highbrow, but it's art. It's something that someone's put together from their imagination.
That's what. Oh God, that's so poignant. Especially, there's a saying, the music is divine. So interesting. There's a guy called Music Soul Child. You guys know of him as a singer, right? He has this song called Love, and there's this note he hits about 3/4 through the song, and he just hits.
The spot. Talk about that. I might do a song after this.
Yes, here. Come.
Like, I think, James, about the drug thing. I think it's definitely. I definitely see where you're coming from. That you don't want to not blame it on anything. I'll let you say it.
So seats, right? Seats here now.
Or just one more thing. But also, like, I guess the kind of challenge of being like, but I want it to happen while I'm sober, in itself is an inhibition, because you're like,
Expecting it to happen.
you're in a way, you're too speculative to be able to take it in if it were to happen. So it's almost like you can't really be aware of it happening and then be aware of it happening while it's happening or after it has happened. And I think that's the beauty of like spiritual happenings, is that you don't actually know. You don't know. They happen, and you don't actually. It's not as visceral as like reality, as being punched. And that's the I guess one thing, the mystery of spiritual events. That's why we don't know it about it, because we might be a bit skeptical about it.
On a personal level, the issue I've always had with like relying on drugs to sort of attain some sort of spiritual happening, because it almost feels like relying on another, not necessarily relying on another body, but relying on another thing to feel this way. I feel like if there is I think spirituality is a part of human existence, and I think that we can experience that without necessarily leaning on the sort of the crutch of chemicals and stuff like that. And I think that actually those chemicals are just as available in the human mind when it's contemplating the flight of a bird, for example.
Saying that, right? Dreams, right? Sorry, I had deja vu today, right? I am convinced. I mean, sorry, going on to different things. So yeah, dreams. Kind of like any scientists in there? Like, alright, so I'm gonna waffle, right? So dreams are like the chemicals in your brain, and your brain just processing what you've seen, what you've heard throughout the process of the day, and kind of like piecing it together, processing information. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna say something completely different. I just don't want to do. Only that deja vu, that some people might claim to be some sort of like spiritual or supernatural occurrence with a psychic ability or whatever. I mean, I'm convinced that even that is just like your brain is super powerful, and it's just a matter of it like absorbing every little bit of information you ever received, right, and then making a series of potential circumstances that you might find yourself in. And so when that happens, it's like, hang on, I've seen this before. And I always imagine that's your brain being like, yeah, because I've already constructed this potential.
I've imagined this before.
Yeah. And that's where your brain's already kind of potentially. Do you see what I'm saying?
So go ahead, guys.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear like the beautiful thing about dreams? It's got absolutely no scientific grounding. It's one of my favourite things anyone ever told me. Like basically there's this theory